guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we are back in the garden. It's starting to get warm. It's 79 degrees. Wait, I said warm, not hot. So up until about mid-August, we actually were above average temperatures. Now we're kind of at that average temperatures for this time of year. Today though, we're out here working until it just gets extremely hot. I think today's high is supposed to be 89 or 90, which it's August. That's normal. I actually had a friend here recently who a lot of people have been complaining, me included, about how hot it was this summer, and she's like, it's summer. Well, it is summer, but we've had 100-degree temperatures starting in the month of June, which is unusual for my area. She is from roughly my area. I met her in college. She's from about 2.5 hours north and west of here, but she has moved to Florida. Well, Florida hasn't been experiencing the heat surge that we have here in Missouri. While yes, summer is hot and it's supposed to be hot, this has been kind of a ridiculous summer. Anyway, let's move on. Let's quit talking about the summer. One thing that does really well in the summer heat, when all else seems to be dying back to try and conserve energy, is weeds. Weeds do really well. They like the heat. They can do with the drought temperatures. They can do on sandy soil. They can do on rocks. They can do on, you name it. You can have weeds if weeds will have you. Whether you want them or not, they'll be there. And especially in a vegetable garden, when you're watering consistently, or even when you have a drip irrigation system, you're gonna have weeds, which is so frustrating, so extremely frustrating, so extremely frustrating. So I watched a video here recently that said how to avoid weeds in your vegetable garden. Okay, cool. I'll watch that. I'll bite. Unfortunately, I think it was a clickbait video because I'm here to tell you that most everything they've said I have either tried, am doing, not working. Oh gosh, that sun was brutal. So I came over to the shade for a few minutes so we can talk about weeds. If you have watched any of my garden updates this summer, or any of my garden posts, I've said, don't look at the weeds, don't talk about the weeds, don't notice the weeds, ignore the weeds. A lot about the weeds. Again, it is what it is. So this clickbait post, as I'm going to call it, I thought I was hopeful. I was very hopeful on how to control the weeds. So one of the things that they addressed was the fact that if you go into nature and you look at nature around you, the trees drop their leaves in the fall and it creates a blanket over the soil, right? Okay, cool. No bare soil. You know, if you have tall grasses, they're gonna lay over. No bare soil. Okay, cool. No bare soil. That's the name of the game. So one of the suggestions was to go in and put basically a weed barrier down. I did that this summer. I did that last summer too. It hasn't worked yet. I have 2 years worth of weed barrier, and as you can see, I still have weeds like crazy. This summer when I went in, so let's go back to summer of 2021. Summer 2021 was the first year that I had my raised beds. And while they're technically raised beds, they're kind of not raised beds. And what I mean is, I came in with stacked up landscaping timbers, right? So they're one on top of each other like that. And I put soil in the middle. But that touches the soil down below also. So I'm not just stuck to, I think they're, what, 4 inches tall maybe? Maybe not even that. So I'm not stuck to, let's say, 6 to 8 inch tall beds. I should go get a tape measure. I have the soil down below. In 2020, when I started this garden, I actually brought in a whole bunch of compost. I have a lot of access to compost. So I brought in a whole lot of compost and I worked it into the ground. So even that soil below is really good soil. It's not just your run-of-the-mill dirt that's in a yard. It's composted. So my first year I just ran a traditional garden. I had weeds. I mean, and especially you can expect that if you're just starting out, because you have not done a lot to prevent those weeds. And that's true. Okay, Then I came in 2021 and I laid my landscaping timbers and I put more composted soil into. So I have composted soil and then I have composted soil, right? And so you would think that that would average out. Okay, I've got really good soil. Well, weeds, let's define the term weed. A weed is anything growing where you don't want it to grow. So let's say we planted a bed of green beans and we have corn growing there that we did not put. You could term that as a weed because it is something somewhere you do not want. Now, take that for what it's worth. The one thing about having just a single corn here and there, corn stalk, is the fact that not gonna pollinate, not gonna get corn. Therefore, it is sucking nutrients and resources out of the ground and you're not getting anything from it. Okay, cool. So we're gonna pull those weeds, make them disappear. So last year when I put in my raised beds, I came in with landscaping fabric. There is a lot of controversy on landscaping fabric. A lot of things you see say do not put it down. A lot of people you'll talk to say do not put it down. Why don't we put it down? Well, here's the reason, the best reason that they can tell me, and I can see it. When you put it down, and let's say a couple years later, you decide you want to cut into it to put another plant, you want to whole redesign your landscape, whatever. It's a pain in the butt to pull up. It is. I laid it all down in the front of my house because I had a lot of weeds and grass that I was trying to kill off. I came in with a lot of mulch and put down. Then I decided to do something different, and I've had a hard time pulling it all up. Not only because there's a layer of mulch on it, but also because even though the stuff I have said that it would keep weeds away or weeds at bay for 20 years, I have weeds that grew on top of it. No soil on top. Weeds don't need it, depending on what kind of weed it is. And I have weeds underneath, and there are roots, and they've kind of done this, and so trying to pull it up, you're pulling roots, and it's been a nightmare. There is a time, there is a place. The place is for, say, when I did my rock, I am saying rock, my rock way, I had to have something to keep those rocks from going into the dirt. When it rains and turns into mud, it would swallow up all of my pea gravel. I don't want that. So, laying it down and then putting your rocks down on that gives you that barrier between potential mud and rocks, and so your rocks don't disappear. I lined the sides of mine with big rocks, big field rock. I've lost some of my pea gravel because it's gone between the little holes of the pea rock or the big field rocks because I did not cement them in. They're just there. So that was something else to consider and to think about. And I think we're gonna redo it. We were gonna redo it this summer, but it's been hot. I came in 2021 and I put down the weed barrier and then I put a layer of mulch. The only place that I put the weed barrier was in the walkway so that my mulch wouldn't go into the mud and disappear, and it would also help with weeds. It didn't. We had those weeds that grew on top of the mulch. Cool. That makes my day. Oh, it gets better. So then this year I came in and I put a second weed barrier down. This year I did it different. Instead of using the store-bought weed barrier like that black stuff, I put down two things. I started with feed sacks, empty feed sacks, because they're paper and they will eventually biodegrade and go back into the earth and feed the soil. Granted, I've got that weed barrier, but you know. The other thing I put down was I bought the great big rolls of brown paper from Lowe's and Home Depot, like you would use. I think I put them down in my house when I was painting to keep paint off my floor. I put them down and it worked for a little while, like all of about a week, and then I had weeds again. I'm tired of weeds, can you tell? So anyway, the clickbait video, he said, put down a weed barrier and it will help keep the weeds at bay. I put down a weed barrier. There's 2 layers of weed barrier, and I still have weeds. So another tip he gave was don't till, no till. Okay, that works really well when you have sandy soil because your soil is very loose and very easy to manipulate. You can work it, whatever. I don't have that. I don't have hard clay soil, but I don't have sandy soil. So the only way to no-till would be to come in and till some sand into my soil and try and make it a little looser, I guess you could say. Because as the summer progresses, between the dry heat and the rain and, you know, everything else, my soil compacts pretty good, pretty significantly. Now his reason for no-till was because there are always seeds in the ground. Okay, cool. But the thing that I don't understand based off what he said is most of the weeds that you are killing out of your garden are an annual. So perennials are the ones that overwinter. So if I have seeds in my ground that are annuals, how are they overwintering? So apparently either they are perennials, not annuals. Now, the wind can blow in seeds, so there is that as a thing. I'll give him that. But unfortunately, most people that till, there's a reason that you have to till. Unless you just have perfect soil conditions, you're gonna have to till. And here's a case in point. Look at how this dirt is compacted into these flower pots. I can't get by not tilling when this is just a flower pot. Like, this is how the soil looks when you look at my beds. Now, I can take a hoe, I can take the little 3-finger deal, and I can claw into it. And while I'm not tilling deep, my question then is, am I bringing seeds to the top, seeds to the surface so that they can do their thing and germinate? I don't know, good question. Finally, he said that if you do a lot of this stuff through multiple years, that by your 2nd and 3rd and 4th and 5th year, you will be out of the weeds. Well, I'm here on year 3, and I really think that I almost have more weeds than I did in year 1. The interesting thing that I've had to deal with this year that I have not had to deal with in the past is, remember I have this tree here. It's right behind the camera, so you can't see it. It dropped a lot of acorns last year, or maybe it was this spring. I don't know when, I wasn't paying attention. Dropped a lot of acorns, and those acorns are still germinating. I am still pulling trees out of the ground, out of my garden, as if it were springtime when I pulled them all out. So there again, they are weeds, and I've not had to deal with this in the past 2 years. So why this year is different, I'm not sure. And I apparently didn't get them all out, even though I thought I did. So that's something I'm gonna have to look into when I put the garden to bed this year. And I have a little bit of a plan on putting the garden to bed this year that is different than I have done in the past. Every year is a learning curve, and there's always new things that come out in a garden. So finally, the last thing that this guy recommended for getting rid of your weeds is common sense. So I have 9 beds in my garden. There are only 7 days in a week. So basically what I should do is pair them off, plus because I also have flower pots, and I have a couple of other raised beds that are different. Basically I need to pair them off, and I need to go through that bed one day every week and just pull weeds. That way they don't get really tall, they don't get extremely rooted, and that kind of thing. Because he basically said, you zone off your garden and you pick weeds every day, and that will keep them at bay. And that right there is the only thing on his video that I totally 100% agree with. Unfortunately. I wish there was a better way. I haven't found it yet. So, it's been really hot this summer, and I am actually one who loves the heat, but it's been extreme. Extreme to the point I didn't want to come out and do it. Extreme to the point I let the weeds get away, and it's my fault. Like, that is also another way that you can control the weeds, is you have to be intentional about it. And while it sucks to pull weeds, because hello, it does, There's something so satisfying about feeling that weed release and being like, haha, you're not in my garden anymore. Maybe that's a little crazy, but it is what it is. Because it's been so hot this year, I've kind of let my potato bed just sit. My potatoes should have been harvested a long time ago. In fact, this morning when I was pulling some weeds, I noticed that some of the potatoes are sprouting again. Oops. I need to get out here. I need to finish cleaning out the weeds out of the potato beds, and I need to get my potatoes harvested. That is it. Need to get those potatoes harvested. My mother-in-law has been helping me now that she is retired. She went through and helped me weed the bed. I had a gourd that just freaking took over the garden. And in fact, the said gourd is now mostly harvested. We pulled a bunch of it out the other day, and I just threw it in the yard because I was mad. The gourds are drying. I don't know what to do with them. Half of them broke when I threw them. I was just so disgusted with them that this is where they landed. My takeaway message on how to weed your garden is you're just gonna have to get in there and do the nitty-gritty and pull the weeds. Now there's one gal that I like to watch, and she says that if you will go in with one of the, I don't know what the 3-prong things are called, but if you go in every day to each bed, like 1 bed a day is basically what she said, and you just stir your soil around, it helps keep it loose and allows you to keep on top of the weeds and helps you keep those weeds at bay a little better. The one thing that I've seriously debated doing, and a lot of people would criticize my thought process even, is going in with weed killer. There's organic weed killer, there's inorganic weed killer. What is inorganic weed killer? Well, that's synthetic stuff that's man-made. Organic uses man-made stuff to kill, but either way, it goes in and it kills weeds. And what I'm thinking about doing, although I'm not sure that it will work, I haven't, but I'm thinking about trying it because these weeds are terrible, is going in and spraying all my walkways, just drenching them in weed killer. Do I know which kind? No, I haven't decided yet. Probably the the organic weed killer, just so that if it leaches down into the soil, it doesn't come over into my beds. But if you read the directions on the synthetic weed killers, they say that as long as you give it, about a week between killing your weeds and planting your garden, that you should be fine. Well, I'm thinking about doing it this fall. And maybe again, early spring before I ever plant anything out in the garden. Maybe I would be okay, maybe I wouldn't. I haven't decided. When I figure it out, I'll let you know, but I haven't decided which way to go. Maybe this fall I'll do the synthetic stuff. That'll give it all winter to leach out, and then maybe in the spring I will do inorganic, or goodness, now I want to say inorganic all the time. I will do organic weed killer, since I know that I will be planting stuff and I want to make sure that, I'm not putting something that might harm me into my body. So anyway, that is weeds. That is my frustration with weeds this year. This is what I know to do about weeds this year. And guess what? In my next garden tour, there will still be weeds. So, it happens. Anyway, again, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. You will help me. Please subscribe to my channel. I feel like I'm begging you to, but I really want to be friends with you, so we can be on this together. And if you have any tips or tricks, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to try something that I haven't thought of yet. Again, like, subscribe, say hi, leave me a comment. Be nice. I don't like mean comments. They make me sad. Until the next video, which will be very soon because it will be the garden tour for September. When that one comes out, if you have liked and subscribed or hit that bell notification, you'll be notified that there's a new video. See, it all works. Okay, talk to you later.